Okay. I'll say good evening because it's evening in our countries. Kelly and Anthony, I am so blessed to have found you both, because your path in your lives are so exemplary for other people who are in the same situation but don't know how to get out of this. So I would first like to ask you, Anthony, can you tell in brief what has been done to you? And let's use the right words, okay? Not what happened to you, it didn't happen. They did do this. It is an active choice of the people who hurt you. So can you tell me from the moment you're born until where you are now in that stage?
From the moment I was born, well, the trauma started and the abuse started when I was 1 year old. And that was my parents, my mother and my father's relationship was very violent and aggressive. And my dad ended up slicing his own throat when I was 1 year old. Going forward, my mum then met, my father left then, he never died, he survived. He never left. Sorry, he never actually died, but when he left, my mum obviously met another guy and he was an Irish fellow. And basically he was a very violent man. The abuse that he would inflict upon me would be, he would bully me, he would assault me physically, he would mentally torture me by saying to me, if I get to, like, I would get up to go and get food out of the fridge, he'd turn around and he'd be like, don't you fucking move, you little cunt, in exactly that accent. Sorry about my language. That's exactly how it was. And that went on for some years. And then when I was 3 years old, my mother left me with a babysitter. Now, this babysitter raped me when I was 3. He was apparently a rent boy working in the streets of London. And I don't know how this happened, but my mum used to let him look after me and my older brother. Now, this boy raped me 1 time. After that rape, I went straight to my mum. As soon as my mum came home, I told her exactly what happened. And my mum took me to the hospital. The hospital did not believe me. And my mum turned around to the hospital and said, no, this boy would not say this if this didn't happen. This has happened. So the hospital done a second opinion and it came back that I was sexually abused and I had been raped. As soon as that rape occurred on myself, I then became very violent, very out of control. And I ended up basically going to like special places for traumatized children. I went to these places and I would be restrained by members of staff. I would try and run to my mum because all I wanted as a child was my mother at that age. And I would try and get to my mum and I would be restrained by 4 big men, and they would restrain me in a white padded room in Westminster social services. They'd have little places for traumatized children, and they would bring me there on a daily basis, and I would be restrained numerous times for my behavior. That went on up until the age of 6, and then when I was 6 years old, I then got put into a boarding school called the Marbury Bush in England. When I went to the Marbury Bush, the abuse there was not so much from members of staff, but it was from children upon children, because this is what happened in these places. When I went to this place here, it was all the kids were doing shit with each other, which was crazy. That place, I stayed in that place in the Marbury Bush until I think I was 9. And then I stole their car in the middle of the night and I took their car on a joyride and crashed it into a fence. I then got kicked out of that home and sent to, got sent to 4 Sherland Road in central London, I was there for a very short period of time, and then I was sent off to Kent. And I was in Kent. Whilst in Kent, I met a boy from the same boarding school that I was in when I was 6 years old. And this boy, who I believe was with a member of staff from his care home, because he was in another children's home as well, but not the same one as me, but he was in the same sort of area. I've met this boy. This boy has then took me off with this other guy, and they've taken me to a field, and then they both raped me. That happened, and then after that, I didn't tell anyone. This time, I didn't tell no one. I didn't tell anyone at all, and I didn't tell no one until 2014. I spoke about it. It was the first time I spoke about that, and that happened, I think, in the early 90s, 95 or something like that. After that, I was in that boarding school, I was in that children's home for quite some time. The other time, because my behaviour was I was such a volatile child because of the trauma that I was exposed to by these perpetrators. It made me very, very sad, very angry, very confused, and it made me also, it just made me violent. That's how I was. I was very violent, and I used to just smash everything up. And I was in school, and I'd be restrained by teachers in the children's. I was in a board. It was like a special school for children. I must have been around the 10, 11 mark, and I remember being restrained by members of staff all day long. And I literally, I remember they bruised all my arms, all up the side of my arms are here. Sorry, boss. All up the side of my arms were bruised here, all down the side of me here was bruised, where members of staff took it in turns, restraining me in a chair. When I got out of that chair, I went berserk and smashed the school up, smashed all the windows, just smashed the gaff up. And that sort of behaviour carried on up until I came back to London when I was 13. And as soon as I got into London, I went to a children's home called 5 Claverton Street, which is in Westminster, which is opposite Dolphin Square. And I was in that care home there. As soon as I got there, the place was crazy. It was like all the kids, the young children, were doing mad stuff, mate. Like, I remember having sex with one girl in there. Bear in mind, I was only 13. She was 16, 15, 16. And obviously, I've ended up having sex with her. There's a couple of guys having sex with another girl over there. Sorry, like 2 people having sex in a bed over there. And these are the care homes. Obviously, I'm at this age now where I can run away from things. So obviously, I started to run away at this stage. And then that's it. I was basically run away. I would break into cars at night time, steal them, steal from shops. And then my criminal life started. Do you want me to carry on with the criminal life as well?
No, it's not necessary. I just have, I noted some questions. What in general is your experience with healthcare?
My experience with the healthcare system.
In general, what is your feeling about it? Because you were very, very young when you got.
I don't like them. I don't like them at all. I don't like the healthcare system in the slightest.
What would you have expected from it? Or what were you entitled to expect from healthcare?
I think anybody is expected and entitled to decency. Decency. You don't restrain little children. That traumatizes children. If a child is acting, find out what's going on with him, talk to him, find out why he's doing what he's doing. Restraining a boy down in a white padded room with padded doors and padded windows, padded walls. Yeah. That is trauma. Terrifying. That is, 1, it's terrifying. 2, it scars the kid's head. 3, I still remember these things. And I was only a little boy, so I'm 36 years old now. So for me to remember these things, that has damaged my head. Mm-hmm. You know, not now, obviously. I'm not damaged by it now, but I remember the damage that it caused. You know?
And the injustice that has been done to you. Mm-hmm.
I'm only one person. So this has happened on imagine all the people that this has happened to.
And
If
not
this is
only in your country, unfortunately, you know, I work a bit all over the world and I hear hundreds of stories exactly the same, be it from the Netherlands, be it from Belgium, be it from France, be it. So this is an organized crime.
yeah,
I listened to your story. I never heard you say that somebody asked you, what is the matter with you?
no one
Why
asked.
are you so violent? Is there somebody on the road of this horror that asked you, what's wrong with you, Anthony?
That's one thing never got asked.
Never.
I can't remember anyone actually sitting down with me and asking me what is going on in your head. Talk to me, tell me what's the matter. I just remember a lot of bad things happening. A lot of people coming and going.
Mm-hmm.
Literally just like that.
Yeah, so you also had trouble bonding with other people because
Of
each
course.
time you
Of
tried to
course.
kill somebody, it was done and then you were sent somewhere else because
Yeah.
there seemed to be a pattern in it, 3 years and then another 3 years and then another 3 years somewhere else.
Yeah, and it's a lot quicker than that. Some care homes, I was only in there for a matter of weeks. Like literally, I'd be in one care home because I was being kicked out of one care home to go to another. I'd get kicked out of that. I'd probably only be in this care home a short period of time, a week, and then off to the next place.
Mm-hmm. And your mother, because I had the feeling that in the beginning, she was kind of protecting you because she believed your story. She believed what you said and she went to hospital with you and she insisted it to be recognized. So that's already a good part.
Yeah.
But where is she out of the picture all of a sudden?
Yeah, what happened was when my mum met my stepfather, once she met him, with my behavior, she basically, I think one, she struggled, and two, social services and the government put their claws into her. And this is what they did. Because the boy that actually raped me when I was 3, they turned around, the police turned around to my mum and said to my mum that you better move. They threatened my mum to move. So my mum had to move out of the house. They also said that if anything happens to the guy that were to abuse me, that did abuse me, sorry, they would be arrested. My mum would be arrested. And basically the police threatened my mum. And with the social services then undermined everything she did. You know, they tried to put, I'm in the process of getting all my care records at the minute, which will prove anything in my mind, which I'm actually going to get them any day now. But what I've been told is that social services just hounded her, and my behavior became so disruptible that they had no choice but to take me off of her, and they gave her an option: either you give him to us or we're taking him. But
that's not a choice, is it?
It's not a choice. It's not a choice. And to be fair with you, my relationship isn't the best with my mum, Colleen, because I'll tell you why, Corinne, sorry, because of all the stuff that happened to myself as a young man.
Has been done to you.
Has been done to me, you know what I mean?
Right words?
Yeah, it has been done to me. And I never asked for none of that, you know, and it weren't my choice. But yeah, I'm sort of lost with my mum, to be fair.
Your mother had a choice, or she agrees to give you up, or they're going to take you by force. That's not a choice. This is a blackmail.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what they do in England.
Yeah, what they did, not only in England, you know, it is a drama all over the world. Yeah. But then she gave you up, I suppose.
Yeah, she
that
did.
must have felt very painful for you too.
What I can remember of it, it was horrendous, like bad. You could imagine, like, you've had a mad life. You're very confused anyway. You're not like all the other kids.
You're a hurt boy.
You know what I mean? And then you're whisked away from your home. You're not told why. You're not told if you're coming back. You're just taken. And once you're taken, you're gone. And that bond between mother and son, once it's gone, it's near impossible to get back. It's very hard to get back.
Even with your siblings.
Yeah, even with my sisters and my brothers, the bond is totally destroyed because I haven't been in their life.
Mm.
And that's the system that creates that.
Yeah. Did they experience the same violence? And
No,
yeah.
so the thing is, my stepfather was a very violent man. He was an alcoholic, or I would say he was an alcoholic because he was drinking every day, but he used to beat all of us. He'd beat my mum, he'd beat me. So the thing is, I used to soil my pants, yeah, until I was 9 years old, because I just don't know. I had examinations and everything from the hospital.
No,
And
it's a psychosomatic. Yeah.
and that's what happened to me. And I remember I pooed my pants one time when I was 5 years old, and my stepfather battered me for it. He battered me for it, absolutely beat the battered me. I had black eyes and everything. I was only 5, but that was a common thing back then. You know, it's not common. It's not right. It's totally illegal. But
inhuman, especially inhuman. You don't do this with a child. You don't do this with anybody.
No, that's right. That's right. But back in the day, it was never acceptable. But it happened an awful lot, and it happened to everyone I knew. Yeah, like everybody I knew, their dads, all of them were abusive. It was just, I can't understand it, because it doesn't happen now, and I would never treat my children, and I would never have anyone speak to my kids the way I was.
That makes you so exceptional, you see. And that's why it's important that you have this message toward others who have been through a life like this, that they can change and choose to do the right thing at any moment, just like you do. They only have to get conscious of the link between their violence now in their adulthood with what they have been through as a child. Because this is incomprehensible, really. It is. So in fact, your bond with your mother is broken now.
100%. Yeah, and it will never be fixed.
Why not?
Because one, she won't give me answers. She's still not telling me everything about my childhood. There's so many things that I don't understand and that are inconsistent. And a couple of weeks ago, because I'm now doing these podcasts, and I'm explaining to the world what happens to people like myself, or what happened to myself.
What has been done to you?
Yeah, what has been done to me. Yeah, what has been done to me. I spoke to my mother about it, and I asked her, I said, how do you feel? And she's gone, it's good feedback for you, but not good for me. And I looked at her and I thought, what do you mean it's not good for you? I goes, this is my life.
About what I went through.
What about what I've experienced? And this happened because of you, because you wasn't there to protect me. And that is the truth. And because of that, I've cut her off now, and I'm not prepared to allow.
It is not entirely her fault.
It's not.
She has been put in front of walls where in fact, she had no choice, but nevertheless, she's the one that had to protect you.
Yeah, and me being the only person, and me being the only one to go into the care system, and I've had a lot more trouble with my mum. Me and my mum's relationship's been bad for many years, and I remember her making me sleep on her balcony when I was 13. Like, I was sleeping on the balcony, and my little sister, because I was running away from all the children's homes because of all the mad stuff that was going on in there. It weren't just sexual abuse, it was violence, other kids bullying me, and I wasn't in a safe place. So I would run away all the time. But I would run away back to mummy's house, and mummy wouldn't want me there. And mum would make me sleep on the balcony, and I would break into the house to try and get into the warm house. She'd call the police on me, and I used to always go back all the time. And then only for the past few years, where I've actually been making some great changes to my own self, I've started to realize that these people are not actually good for me, and
you have to stay away from people who are not good for you. I can imagine what your self image must be going back at 13, and they don't want you anymore. So it is a reinforcement of the idea they've put in you that you were a bad little boy from
Yeah,
birth.
yeah, no
and,
good.
and that is very difficult to get out of this, because everything confirms it, while in fact you and your whole body and your spirit have been fighting against this by being aggressive, by not accepting this. So in fact, part of you was protecting you by being violent, because nobody listened to you. Your voice had no sound. And then of course you tried in other ways. Now, if I listen to your story, there are in fact all categories of child abuse present, I'm afraid. So there is alcohol in, well, there are 5. Physical abuse, hitting, burning, hurting children. There is alcohol abuse within the family. There is emotional abuse. You're worth nothing. You're nobody's gonna love you. You're stupid. We don't want you here. That's what I hear in your story. Then there is the psychological abuse, locking you up in rooms where you can't get out, like in prisons, not knowing for how long you will be locked up. Will they give you food? Will they give you something to eat? What is the purpose? So that's another form of abuse. And then you have the sexual abuse. And in fact, when children are victim of at least 3 of the 5 categories of abuse, chances are very high that you suffer from a post-traumatic stress disorder on long term. And that's where you went through. So it is already a miracle that somehow you have been able to cut those vicious circles. And I am very grateful that you told your story. I hope you now understand that this is not something that happened. It is something that has been done to you.
Done to me.
Because
I was a victim.
If it happened, it means that you could have had a choice, because then you would have said, well, I should have fought back. I should have done this, done that. Things that happen are storms, earthquakes, things of nature where you can't do anything. That are the things that happen. Things that other people do to you, it is a choice. It is an active choice, and it was not yours.
That's correct, right?
Okay, I'll give you some minutes now. I would like to ask our beautiful Kelly and our wonderful woman. Is it difficult for you to tell your story?
A little bit. It's only because in the past couple of days it's brought back memories that I didn't realize my brain had blocked out. I've been questioning myself, because I'm thinking, is my brain just imagining them, or is that what really went on? Or so past couple of days I have struggled a little bit. So I mean, I'm okay talking about the superficial line of it, but then when you delve in, it's hard. From what I can remember, I said this the other day actually to Anne. When I speak to people, they have so many memories of their childhood, and I can hardly remember much of mine. So in the beginning, I think my childhood was pretty happy. I get some flashbacks sometimes, and they were of good times. I was pretty much brought up in a pub with my grandma. That was no choice that my mum was bad or anything. It was just, for some unknown reason, I was so latched on to my grandma that I was forever staying with her when I was younger. And then the abuse started when I was about 4 or 5. And I remember being in my grandma's flat above the pub, and my dad, I could hear loads of banging. It was like really late at night. I remember it being dark. I remember I could actually vividly see how the whole flat was set out. I could walk you through it. I remember waking up, hearing loads of banging, and my grandma shouting at my dad. He'd come back really drunk. He had a big problem back then with alcohol and drugs. And he was trying to flush a gun down the toilet. And he came over to me and pushed this gun into my chest and told me to hide it. And me being like 4 or 5, I just put it under the mattress. I didn't know where to stick it. It was either under the mattress or under the pillow. But I remember police coming in and my dad disappeared and went to prison. Then I don't remember much onwards for that. I remember going to see my dad in prison. I remember a lot of violence with my mum and my dad. I remember my dad trying to crash the car with us in it while my mum was driving because he was annoyed with her. I remember my dad pulling out big knives on my mum and holding it to her throat. I remember watching out of a bedroom window crying at my dad holding a knife to my mum in the middle of the street, in the middle of the road. I remember a lot of violence. There was a lot of violence in my childhood. I think my grandma was my safe haven. I think that's why I latched onto her so much. Then coming into my, like coming on 8, 9-ish, 10-ish upwards, my mum left my dad, moved away. Then I remember my mum being really sick. My mum got cancer and we were only little, me and my brother and my 2 sisters at the time. I remember a lot of violence, my dad finding out where we lived, and we had 2 phones in the house. One was a normal phone, one was an emergency phone. Remember sitting at the windows, waiting for my dad to pick me up and him never turning up. And then my mum got a new partner while she was dealing with her cancer. And he was a real strong Irish man. And at first, I never liked him. I hated him. I remember shouting when I'd see my mum walking out the door, going on a date with him. I'd stand there and I'd be like, I hate you. I hate you. And then they finally, they got together. He moved in. He was really nice in the beginning, like really nice. Then he turned horrible and his drinking side came out, and always drinking. He used to beat my mum, like badly beat my mum, and we'd all be standing there watching, nothing we could do. Like, we tried, I jumped on his back and I was shouting, get off my mum. Like, I would try, but I'm only small. I'm only like 9, 10. I can't do nothing. Then I don't remember how it fully started, but he sexually abused me. I don't like any of the doors closed in my house now. Makes me feel very uneasy. So that happened. Well, that was done to me, should I say. Then that went on for a little while. Still loads of in between that, loads and loads of violence. And really a lot of confusion.
Yeah, was he drunk when he started abusing you?
Not always.
Not always. Mm.
Not always. He used to, when we were eating dinner, he wouldn't let me leave the table until every bit had gone off my plate. And I used to be gagging because I couldn't physically get any, I couldn't eat anymore. I'd be retching.
Yeah.
And he still wouldn't let me leave. And I'd remember my mum standing there going, just let her go. What's wrong with you? Just let her go. She's had enough. And I remember him shouting at her going, it's none of your business. They run rings around you. These kids have got no respect for you. He used to call me fat when I was early teens. I just started secondary. No, I was just starting secondary. Yeah, I was year 7, just started secondary school. And to the point where I would get up at 5 in the morning and run around the block before I went to school that morning. I'd hardly eat anything. Then when I actually realized this the other day speaking with Anthony. The day I realized what he was doing to me was wrong was when I could actually vividly picture it as well, because I get them feelings back. And it was about another girl. She told me what her dad had done to her, and she was one of my best friends at school. And she said that her dad had gone to prison, and I said, why? And I asked. She said, because this is what he did to me and my brothers and sisters. So I remember that feeling of, huh?
It's wrong. It's
like, do you know when you're just so confused, there isn't actually any word for it. It's like I was.
It seems normal, but you feel with your heart, your soul, your body.
But it's not even that feeling. It's not that feeling, because when it was happening, the feeling I had, I knew it was something wasn't right. Something was not normal.
Mm-hmm.
But I had nothing to clarify it with. And when I spoke to her, it did clarify it for me. So it was kind of like
revelation.
Yeah. And after that, I become an extreme handful. I stormed home and I run into the house. I remember it actually. I run into the house and he tried to say something to me as I come. He was walking up the hallway as I come through the front door. And I shouted at him, I went, I know what you've been doing to me. Like that. And he ran up to me and he grabbed me by the scruff of my neck, pushed me up against the wall. I was 12, maybe coming into 13. And he literally lifted me off the floor, like by the scruff of my neck. And I was screaming at him and I was going, you're a nonce, you're a nonce. And I got slapped for that. Ever since then, at that period, I was a handful. I always went for him. There was anything he said, you ain't my dad, you ain't my dad. Or it was, wait until I tell someone what you've done to me. And all I used to get, he used to bring this axe out and it'd sit on the front room table with this wooden coffee table in front of me. and he'd lay the axe down on the table and he'd sit there, shoulders up, hands on his knees, and he'd look at me with venom, just pure venom. And he was like, no one would believe you. I went, well, shall we see? Shall we see? And every time I went, Mom, he went for me. And in the end, I got to 16 and I got with a guy. It was like my first proper boyfriend, should we say.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason, I know it sounds really bad, because I actually have got 3 kids to him. And without him, I wouldn't have my 3 kids. So like, it's amazing, like they're amazing. But I only got with him realizing now that because when I was younger, he was sort of like, all the people that we knew at our sort of ages, they always seen him as the tough guy. And now I realize I only got with him because I thought, oh, he'll protect me. And yeah, he tried to scare him off. He didn't like the fact that I'd got a boyfriend. He tried to scare him off a lot, actually, by threatening to harm him. And then 16, I actually told my mum what happened, what he did to me. And my mum rang the police straight away. She had a complete breakdown. But what confused me a little bit after was the police came, and I remember the day they came because I was actually sitting in my bed, like in the fetal position, crying my heart out. And they interviewed me, and then they took me to this little house I had to sit behind a screen. I remember I had like little dollies at a table, and they asked me what happened, and I told them the best way I could describe it at like that age. And when I come home,
And you had to use the dolls to show what happened.
Yeah.
What they did to you.
Yeah.
But then you must have been very young.
I was 16.
And they used the dolls with you?
Yeah, they weren't such, I mean, I don't know whether I actually used the dolls, but I remember vividly seeing there was dollies on a little coffee table.
Oh yeah, okay.
So, but I knew that I was
for small children, yeah.
But I knew I was in a special room because I remember the police officer saying to me, your mum's just behind that glass. So you're okay.
So they recorded you.
I know where I was.
Mm-hmm.
And what I couldn't understand was when I went home, my mum let him back in the house and allowed him to confront me. And after that day, she never, ever believed me. She thought I was pining for my dad because that's what he had told her. She's a liar. All she wants is her dad. She's never accepted me.
The manipulations of the real child abusers.
Yep. But then what didn't feel very nice was later on in life, I found out that he had, I don't know 100%, but if he had done it to me, there's a big possibility that it would have been my brothers and sisters as well. But they called me a liar as well.
That's to protect the family secret.
So I actually moved out at 16 on my own.
Mm-hmm.
He was really controlling with me though, really controlling with me. I mean, professionally, I'm a hairdresser. So, but the only reason I did hairdressing was because he made me. I never had a dream to be a hairdresser.
What was your dream?
I can't even remember.
Sure, you know. What did you dream about of becoming when you were a big girl?
I think I wanted to be like a designer or interior designer when I was younger.
Because you made dresses, didn't you? Wedding dresses.
But yeah, he used to drag me, and it was like a form of like humiliation as well, because
Control.
he
It's all
would
about
drag me.
control.
He would drag me down there, and he would drag me into this hairdresser's in my uniform, my school uniform, and he would make me beg these owners for a job every single day, to the point where literally one day they just said, fine, we'll give you the job. You can have a Saturday job. And with that Saturday job, I earned £20 on a Saturday, and I saved that up. I started when I was 14 hairdressing. So I was still going through all that abuse while I was trying to
To make your
please.
life.
But in a sense, it was like I was trying to please him by keeping the job, even though I didn't really want the job, but I still did it. It's like really confusing, but I stuck with the job. But I then left school, and they gave me an apprenticeship, and then I worked all week, and I earned £80 a week. And with that £80 a week at 16, I moved out, and I got a flat, like a room in a whole big house.
Yeah.
And that cost me £80 a week. But I'd rather no money than be at a house where no one believed what he'd done to me. So that's what I did. I moved out at 16. Then the boy the boy I was dating at the time moved in with me as well. That was chaotic in itself. There was a lot of mental abuse, domestic abuse with him. Really, like a lot of mental and domestic abuse with him. Going back to the person who abused me, I'd go back and I'd visit my sisters, and I'd say to them, and it was weird. It was a weird atmosphere, but I'd still go back, and I used to say it to him: if I find out you've ever touched my brothers and sisters, I will kill you. I will kill you. And he'd laugh. He'd just look at me and laugh and go, what are you going to do?
Yeah, but he was scared. Believe me.
No one believed you. Your mum don't even believe you. The police didn't even believe you. So I was like, okay. Then one day I get a phone call from my mum, and she's freaking out down the phone. I left work, run back to my mum's house, and he had put a pitchfork through my mum's back door, trying to get to my other sister, because she had woke up in the middle of the night with him in bed naked with her, and she screamed, and my mum ran in, and he used the excuse I was drunk. I must have gone to the toilet in my sleep and ended up there. Then my younger sister, she then started going jogging, and I could see it. I could see it just happening all over again. Do you know what I mean? It was like, no. And then she used to start running away, and I went absolutely mental, but I was heavily pregnant at this time. So there weren't much I could physically do. In between all of that as well, in 2001, he actually had a little girl with my mum. So I've actually got a sister from him. So not only do I have to bear this and the rest of the family have to bear this, she has to bear that about her own father. And the last time he went to prison after the pitchfork, he went for threatening behavior and stuff like that. My mum had got him arrested. Then when he was released, he just kept coming back. And it got to the point where he made my mum so low that she was an alcoholic, and still to this day suffers with with that. She's doing really well at the minute, but she still suffers to this day because of that. But we found her. My mum went missing. My little sister went missing. My mum went missing one day, and my sisters rung me and my brother rung me and said, we don't know where mum is. We can't find my sister, which is his biological daughter. And we're like, well, we're going to have to go searching. So we went searching, and we went to the usual hangout spots where he'd be drinking with alcoholics and whatever other people. And we found my mum passed out in a bush in a park. And he had drugged her and took my little sister, which is his daughter. And he took her to a flat. And I don't know whether there was any sexual abuse, but I know there was physical abuse because she told me what happened, what they did to her.
How old was she then?
She was
About
7,
a little girl.
a little girl.
Little kid. No.
He drowned her in a bath and was laughing at her. He passed her to her friends and they all hit her and kicked her. He left her on a wall and she said, I seen police. And I tried to call them, but they didn't see me and I was scared. We then, obviously, police all got involved. He then was found. He was arrested. He went to prison. But because I weren't believed, I'm now 22 at this stage. When the police were called for this, they asked about the history. I explained the history and they said, would you like to reopen your case from when you were abused? And I said, yeah, I do want to, yeah. And they said that they got back to me after a few weeks and they said, we're going to find it really hard to go ahead with your case. And I said, why? And they said, because we've lost the evidence of the video footage that you made when you were 16.
I heard this so many times.
Yeah.
So I never got my justice. I never ever got justice. And even when he was in prison, he would send me letters and he'd send me the Bible and highlight words out of it. And he'd send letters to my mum saying, tell Kelly I'm coming for her. And I knew what that meant. It's because I exposed him. I was the first one to expose him. Yeah. And he hated me for that.
Yeah.
But me having my own son at that time, a little baby, I was terrified. I thought he's coming for me and he's going to hurt my babies. And even to this day, I still sometimes have a little look over my shoulder, or do you know what I mean? It's like, even though I probably know he's dead by now, it's still what's left. Do you know what I mean? And
the fear has been installed, but in fact,
yeah.
in the both of you.
Yeah. And then
for Anthony, it's the same. In fact, your whole life has been in fear, in surviving mode, being a victim and being in a surviving moment at the same time, while now you're in a restoration phases, you know, where you have done a lot of restorations because you never betrayed yourselves, none of you. You've always been very faithful to yourselves. But again, in your story, we find these same 5 forms of abuse. And so, in fact, you are now in a stage of post-traumatic stress disorder on long term, but that can be fixed. And it is amazing that you are together and you can talk about it, because most of the couples are living in very difficult relationships, not knowing why. Why is he very nice at one moment and then all of a sudden wow, it all turns around and something is wrong. And the same goes for women. You know, very nice women, but they can destroy a whole beautiful day in a second. And the husband doesn't understand why. Most of the time, it is because these people have been abused in childhood and they have not been able to deal with it, and they don't find the help that is necessary to do that, you know. And it is not a shame to ask for help. I mean, if something's wrong with my car, I'm not going to fix it myself because I'm not a mechanic. Then I go to the garage. And then when I go to the garage and they say it's fixed, and I drive home and I have the same strange noise in my motor, then I can go back one time, but I'm not going to go back 10 times for the same thing on my car if it isn't helping. But where do I have to go then? It's a bit the same. I use a metaphor, but it's not a shame to go to a mechanic to fix my car. Here you go to somebody who can help you to fix the pain inside, the hurt has been done to you and the injustice. Well, then you are supposed to find that person who is able to do that. And you did not have that person.
No.
Because it has always been a problem to talk about sexuality, even for professionals.
Yeah.
And as I said in our earlier conversation, I guess now that about 80 to 90% of the healers or the therapists or healthcare have been victims in their childhoods. So they are unable to help others. They try to. And they were convinced, when I will be older, I will go and help all those little children. And so the intention is okay. And they will be able to do that. But they first have to heal themselves to be able to help somebody else.
Totally, yeah.
So that's why I sent you the workbook, because it is not always possible. But you are a couple that can help heal each other.
Yeah.
Sorry, the workbook from the training I completely prepared in Dutch and in English is about 11 models that are taught to form the best skilled therapists on this planet. And one of these models is the hurt women, hurt little girl, insecure women. And then you have for the man, you have the same. Yeah, you have this same, because in fact, you as men are abandoned still. There doesn't seem to be help for you. For women, since 25 years, we have the, thanks to very brave people too, and women, we have a platform. And now it's not the right word, but accepted that victims of child abuse exist amongst women when they were little girls. But for men, I think it's only 10 years, not even, when all these scandals break loose in the churches, then people could not go around the fact that little boys, in my opinion and with my experience, there are more boys abused than women, than girls. Only they have nothing to go to. Women have their groups. You know, I'm not always in favor of groups, but at least as a victim, you feel you're not alone. Most men in your situation, Anthony, have nothing. You don't have those groups because you even feel more shame than women
talking
do.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, because
that's what it does. It isolates us, isn't it?
With your adult body and mind, you keep saying to yourself, I should have killed him. Yeah. But you forget that you were a little boy of 3.
Yeah.
There was no chance you could have killed him.
Yeah.
Your mind wasn't even there to kill somebody.
I know that now. many
And then,
years ago, I thought
yeah,
the same. I don't think that now. I think I was unfortunate. I was a victim and I was unable to stop what was happening.
absolutely. And that's the first step. When you realize this and you put the blame where it belongs,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
because, you know, all these prevention actions they do for women, for men, for little children is meant to keep you in the victim role,
Yeah, of
because
course.
that's where they say children are taught in schools and everywhere that how to learn to say no against abusers. It's not up to a child to say no. I mean, I did expertise in prison on men who raped 3-month-old babies. How will that child ever be able to say no? We don't even know of the consequences on long term of this kind of tremendous abuse and rape on little babies, because they don't know what is happening. They don't have words to say something. So we don't know what it does in the brain and to the human heart to go through such abuse. We don't know it. And it is not examined for the moment neither, which is, I can't fathom this. Okay. But we'll get there in the end.
I don't get it. I just
No.
can't work out why someone would want to hurt something
Because they're animals. They're not the same. They
so
don't think the same as us, mate. And that's
so
just,
small and so vulnerable. And
It's all about control. I listened very carefully to your story, Kelly. It is, this man was fixed and focused on you because I think you were the less resilient of the children around. And controlling a powerful creature is much more, how will I say it? It gives a much better feeling of
more
himself.
challenging.
It's more challenging. You know, it's like you play tennis and okay, you can play tennis against a little child, but isn't it a challenge to play tennis against a top tenniser like Nadal?
yeah.
And maybe you can win of it, imagine, because in their mind, that's how it functions. Now, you both have heard that these circles of abuse continue and that the first absolutely necessary thing to do is to restore the victim. I don't like the word healing because you're not sick. I mean, you're terribly hurt. You're terribly hurt and it needs restoration. And it is not a shame to accept help from people who know how to help you restore. Just as I said, I go to the mechanics to help fix my car, but also if I have a problem with my computer, I have to call my ITer, and then I don't feel ashamed. But if it goes about our own well-being, we feel shame or we feel reluctant to accept help or to ask for help, especially men, Anthony. Asking for help seems so weak,
Hard. Yeah.
while it is so strong.
Yeah, it's not weak.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
but
is not
obviously,
weak.
when you're young, you don't think like that, unfortunately, do you? That
No,
takes years
it takes
of training
years,
of the mind.
But
and
it
most,
also takes someone as it takes seeing someone like you are manly.
I know, yeah.
You're,
I'm a strong man.
do you know what I mean? And
Mm.
Mm.
for you to come out and say that that's happened to you,
Yeah.
it gives other people strength
Of course it
because
Well, if I can do it,
Absolutely. And that's why your testimony is so crucial for me, for women too, Kelly. Absolutely, because they see a very strong woman who is
yeah.
taking care of her children, and she will not allow that this will be done to her children. The same
no,
goes for you,
That's
Anthony.
exactly right.
But there is the other part of man that will watch you and see how where you went through and how you succeeded in saying, stop this. I will not continue
sorry,
to be silent. I'll,
Sometimes.
um, I'll take my life in my own hands and I'll be my perfect little self, because that perfect little boy is still in you. And you have worked, you've gone a long way already to do that. Your message will be very, very important for male victims. Absolutely. Now, I gave you.
My laptop's about to run out of battery. I'm just plugging it in. Sorry.
It's not a problem.
There we go. Yeah. Sorted.
So I gave you the workbook to work in. You can do this with a therapist or somebody skilled who had the training at our academy, or you can start working with Kelly. Other men who watch this can contact us at the academy. We can provide the workbook so they can work on it with their own therapist, or we'll appoint somebody who already finished the exams and who succeeded and has her diploma to work with that person. For the moment, we have to do it by Zoom because, yeah, you know, the circumstances we all live in. But you see, it's doable. I have the feeling you're sitting in front of me in my office. So it is very doable. Now, for people who do not have partners or friends, or maybe a priest, a trustworthy priest, to work in that workbook, to do the tasks in it, it is important for them to see that they can do it with a partner. They can do it with a therapist who has to be skilled and not somebody, as Kelly told me, well, come on, tell your story. Who knows? I'm not saying this is the case, Kelly, but there are studies done on psychiatrists in the United States, and 93% of them have a borderline personality disorder. It's all about control, you see? So you see that there are very, very damaged people in the field of care. It's not always their fault, but it's not good for people like you who are hurt and who want their car be fixed. If I may say it that way. So I gave you the workbook and you have started watching in it because reading in it, because I hear you say, Kelly, that there were things you had forgotten or you have just buried deep that came up, but you have a partner who can help you out in difficult moments, and the opposite down.
And this is exactly what we do.
That's what we've been doing, isn't it?
Yeah. So you don't need to go pay very expensive therapists. When you can do it yourself, you will need at times somebody who's skilled and who is exterior of the situation you're both in, and you have both been in, to help you over some struggles. But you don't need to go to a therapist.
I believe that.
Yeah, I believe that.
I believe you're spot on the money. And I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you exactly why this is, My missus is my best friend. She knows everything about me. There's nothing she doesn't know. And I can talk to her about everything and anything. And my feelings are not hidden. And I will ask her, what do you think of this? And I run, and we talk about everything.
Everything, everything.
There's nothing we don't talk about. If I'm stressed about something, we talk about it. If Kel's stressed about something, we talk about it, because that's how you get through daily life. Communication is the key, and that is how we do it. And we're better for it, aren't we?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And to be fair, when it comes to feelings and stuff like that about your past and stuff, if you're talking about someone or something that's personal, and you're talking about it with your partner, there's no shame.
No.
There's no shame, which is a big thing.
The previous conversation we had, I was pointing out the difference between sex and sexuality. Have you been thinking about that?
Yeah, because I struggled with that in my past. I did, and I was saying that to you the other night, weren't I? I was saying, well, I understand now why I was acting like that, or
because what has been done to you, Kelly, was sex. Not an interaction between two human beings.
It makes it very, very easy to disassociate yourself from it. Very easy, because you could be in that moment and you'd feel nothing.
No, but that in a loving relationship, being able to stay there, to be there, to enjoy it, to enjoy each other is one of the most beautiful things on earth. That's why the bad is trying to destroy this. Don't let that happen. Make it part of your relationship. You are on a mental basis. You're very connected already. On the feeling.
We've been like that though our whole lives, really.
Do you know what
this is the craziest thing.
This is the maddest thing, yeah. I believe what happened to me and Kelly, as young people, and what was done to us, in our later life, has made our survival and our treatment better because we understand each other 150%. No one understands her better than me. No one understands me better than her. You know, she knows, and we work, and that's that. We
mesh.
Yeah.
But we always have. I mean, the craziest thing about it as well was
when we were just mates.
When we spoke about it, because we actually realized that we'd crossed paths our whole life. Yeah. And
we didn't
we may have even bumped into each other or played with each other as kids, or going to the same nightclubs at the same age, and we could have bumped into each other there. And then I moved like a couple of doors down to you, and
the rest is history.
And the rest is history. Literally. But we were friends for
10 years. No, we were friends for 5 years before we
5 years before we got together. Yeah. But it's crazy. So it is crazy.
It's possible.
Yeah,
it is possible. And this is the very important message you bring for all these people out there. They have to work instead of just leaving each other. Work on the relationship and make sure.
It's not like we don't have our hard times.
No, and still have. Absolutely. But you know, the rational part has to be stabilized. The feeling part, like a snowman, you know, the middle part is the heart, the feeling, emotions have to be stabilized. It doesn't mean that you can't get out of your roof one day for a few hours and say all this but it has to be able to get restored. And then you have the last ball is sexuality, and all these three balls have to connect, and it has to go fluent, and then you will be able to enjoy sexuality and intimacy, because there is always a bad, there's black, there is white, there is always the negative side of something, but never forget the positive side of sexuality. It brings people together and it makes incredible good bonds. But restore the other two parts, and then the rest will go fluent.
Going back a minute, I remember you saying about people breaking up and that, and that's what is wrong with society. Everyone splits up now.
It's just it's just so easy now to leave.
No one stays. And it's like there's so many kids now, and this is the problem. There's so many children out there without fathers and mothers together. It's just
and they become very vulnerable for
and that's where the system comes in and grabs them. That's exactly right, and that's when when the families are broken up and the mothers are vulnerable or vice versa, and that's when they come in.
That's when they come to pick on your children, and but that is in the whole of our society now, and apparently it's going on for hundreds of years. That is the focus, to destroy families, because families are the most important thing in a society, the most strong thing. So people have to absolutely have to reconstruct this. It is not because you have an argument that you just take your suitcases and go.
That's crazy.
Like you say, communicate with each other. What's wrong with you? Why do you feel bad? And if there has been abuse, whatever kind of abuse it is, in their childhood, in your childhood, work on it with your partner.
That's the best one to work on it with.
That's what you are doing. And I'm sure nobody's gonna touch your children.
No way. No way. I can guarantee you that. Never gonna happen.
And all parents should talk like that over my dead body.
Yeah.
you're not gonna get to my children.
They would have to kill me.
They wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to get to any of them here. I can pretty much guarantee
Yeah.
that.
But you know, your parents did not have
They didn't have what we have.
no, no,
That's why
whatever
we
it
have what
is,
we have.
they didn't have it. They had to fight for you. And even
Yeah.
your mother never asked you, Anthony, what is wrong with you? What is the matter?
Yeah.
Yes, at the
You know
beginning.
what? I think she knew what was the matter with me. I just think she was too embarrassed because the parent, what I believe, I believe my mum is highly embarrassed about what happened to me. I think she's embarrassed about her image. That how could she allow, and that is what is.
I honestly think,
Yeah,
I believe that that's what it is. It was all, it's all about her image.
It's her image, but that's her problem. You know, that's
Yeah, well, they prefer to go in denial because it's much easier. But in the long end, it is just eating them up.
Yeah.
But I believe that's what I believe that's what my mum went
It's
through.
very sad. Really.
Because my mum's amazing. Like she is. She like I can't fault my mum.
But this is the thing.
I can't. And I believe that when he did this to us, he made her so weak. I mean, she was fighting cancer at the time as well.
Yeah.
And he beat her down. I mean, she had it from my biological dad before him. And then when she thought, oh, he's wonderful, he's amazing, like my life sorted, I'm not on my own no more.
This is what they do.
He drummed her down. I know that. But what I'm saying
this is a typical paedophile.
No, I know that.
Women with
Manipulation. Yeah.
That's exactly what they do. I know what you mean.
But what I'm saying is, like with your mum, for instance, like your mum had that kind of ego side. Like my mum never had that ego side. My mum
was a victim.
She was a victim. Yeah, she was. And okay, she never believed, she might not have believed me. She might have believed me. I don't know. She does now. Like, and she realizes now, but back then I understand. Like I understand that he got her to that place. He manipulated her. He manipulated everybody around him.
And I understand bad and make you look bad. The bad girl, the bad daughter.
Yeah, my mum always fought for us, even with childhood. Like even in childhood, I remember social services being involved in our lives. And I remember my mum fighting so hard. And I couldn't even tell you the extent it was going on, but all I could see was my mum fighting so hard for us.
That's enough.
Which is why in the later years, I couldn't understand why she never believed me, because it was a bit like, well, I seen you fight for us so hard, but now I'm telling you this, Mum, come on. Do you know what I mean? But I understand
because she has been abused in her childhood too.
Yeah,
and you know,
yeah, totally. No, but she has. And she has, yeah.
And nobody believed her. So you have these circles coming back, and you are breaking this with your children. And this is,
we are breaking it. This has been so commonplace within the families that our generation, as in me and Kelly, are the ones that it's not happening no more. This has all happened to her mum, Kelly, myself.
Yeah, it stops here. Enough now. Enough is enough. Enough people have been hurt.
And that's how we take our world back.
Yeah.
By being the right parents for our children, and then these children, they know of nothing better, and they'll do the same for their children. That's how we restore our society.
I believe that they should be doing something more in schools for people to be.
Schools are the system now. They have been hijacked.
They're not going to prove anything.
No, they groom, and they are part of the system. But that will change. With people like you, that will change.
See, that's what I would like to do, man. Get it out there so people they're taught about people like them. You know what I mean? So people know what to look out for at schools.
Well, in fact, you answered all my questions. I had a whole bunch of questions. So I see you all just by telling. I see you You answered all the questions. Incredible, isn't it? I knew you were the right people. Knew it. Now, if
I've
it
got to
is,
say it as well, like, because this is what's got me through everything as well. Because times can get, and this is for men and women. This isn't just for women. This isn't just for mothers, and this isn't just for dads. Like, what I think every single day is, I have had some extremely, extremely low points in my life where I have not particularly wanted to be here anymore. I didn't want to think anymore. I didn't want to feel anymore. I didn't want to go through any of it anymore.
you didn't want to live anymore.
And
Yeah.
the only, do you know, that the one thing that always stopped me were my kids. Were my kids, because if I'm not around, who's going to look after them? Because I'm telling you now, there is not, it doesn't matter whether it's my mum or my sisters or my brother or an uncle or a granddad. It doesn't matter who they would go to. No one will protect my kids like I will.
No.
And that is the only thing that has kept me going. And then I met Ant. And then we've done it together. He's like my muscle man, and I'm the brains. I'm the strength, the emotional strength.
Pinky and the brain.
Yeah.
You're the brain. I'm Pinky.
Yeah.
I think you have both of all of it, and then if you put it together, it's double. It's double. You have it double. Yeah.
I'm not physically tough. I can be very withdrawn.
She's tough.
Mentally.
I get withdrawn. I shut down. I can cut off quite easily.
Yeah, but you're a tough bird, man.
Mentally, I'm tough. Yeah.
Well, it was fantastic. It is incredible that I have had 24 questions. I hardly had to ask them because you just filled it in. That's remarkable. What we will do is I would like to ask you to continue working in that workbook. I think when you finish the first chapter, give me a sign, and we'll talk about how you work together and how other people can take an example of how you do it. And that would be nice.
We did the first chapter already.
You did the first chapter. Well, do the second then, and we'll record them both.
We were up until like 2 a.m. I was sobbing, going, help me, Anne.
But you are perfect, only you don't know it. You know, you will have tasks later on where I will ask you to make a list of 10 negative points of yourself and 10 positive. Then you will see that the negative points are, oh, very easy. Most start writing, right? And then they come to the positive side. They think, do I have positive?
She's got loads.
You know what? We do this to us all the time. We always do
pros and cons.
We
do
always
pros and cons on everything.
We say it to each other. It's like one of them like reassuring things that we do for each other. It's like, what do you love about me? And then he says it about me, and then we're like, oh, all right then.
Yeah, but then challenge also the negative points. Is this true or is this not true? For instance, I'm lazy.
Yeah, we done that last night.
We did.
Yeah.
We did that last night. We do it. Oh, honest to God, we actually do this regularly. And that's how you get through, isn't it?
We do.
Well, you can do that. Make your list negative points, 10 positive points, and then you challenge the negative ones. When you have written, I'm lazy, I am stupid, I am ugly, I am, you know, and then you take, I'm lazy, for instance, and then you ask yourself, is this true? Because in fact, I'm running around all day. I'm working all day, but by the end of the day, nothing seems to be finished. And then you see that you're not lazy, that there are things that other people tell you and told you your entire life, but you feel that it is not right. So you have conflict already. And then you start thinking, okay, well, I'm not lazy, but I'm not well organized. And then you make a list with the things you have to do that you know I have to do in the morning. And then you put them in order of priority. And then you just, each time you finish something, you put a little sign. And at the end of the day, everything is done. You feel good about you. But if you keep reassuring yourself that you're lazy, you are going to continue to be in that circle of,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
see, I'm lazy because look at the house, nothing's done.
Yeah.
I have days like that. I do. I have days like that. There's days
But
where I haven't done,
human,
and it's like there are days that I haven't done anything in the house, and then I'll feel really crap about myself. But then you have to tell yourself your body is allowed a rest.
Yeah, you are, mate. You're a busy
Yeah,
lady.
You are allowed a rest, and there is tomorrow.
Yeah.
You can catch
Absolutely.
up tomorrow.
Yeah, as long as you don't say there is another
Yeah.
year.
We've got 6 kids living in this house at the minute, so it's like we've got a lot of personalities here. We've got 2 teenagers, an 11-year-old, a friggin' 8-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So our house is extremely busy.
And still you have all this energy to talk to me now, that late at night.
Well, to be fair, before we got on here, we were like that.
You energized each other, you see? Well, but I'm gonna leave you for today, and you give a sign when you finish chapter 2, and then we'll record both of them and we talk about it. Is that all right with you?
Perfect.
And if in between you have a problem because things emerge and you can't handle them, just contact me. Okay?
Brilliant.
Do that. I'm
Brilliant.
very grateful, and I thank you so much and hope to see you very soon. Thank you for your message.
Have a good evening.
Take care, Corinne.
And hug all those kids from you.
I will.
Okay.
See you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.